Fintracker can be found on the app stores. You're going to enter your office main phone number. We'll synchronize you to your office. We're going to send you a welcome email with a full tutorial video, reset password link, set up your password, and then get started. It's the hardest part of using Fintracker. Once you're registered and you select your board, your office, your subscriptions will be waived. No cost to you, of course. And moving on, you're going to sign in for the first time. Your device will offer you Face ID or thumbprint biometrics or 4-digit PIN, depending on the device that you have. Maybe some of you have disabled that and you have to put in your full password. Not a big deal. Most of our cell phones will remember your password. This is a pending folder, and then there's a submitted folder. In the pending folder, I use this to test, and you should as well. When you first download the app, scan your own ID and save it for later to show you how quickly you can do that. And then you can swipe left and delete that so that you're ready when it is time to work with your client. For those of you that are intimidated by technology, I want to emphasize before we begin here, this was created by or designed by myself. I was non-tech savvy 7 years ago. I was intimidated by all the new web forms and any of these apps that came out. So when I sat down with the team, I said, it has to work for me. And if it works for me, it'll work for everyone. So just go into this with open mind and relax. We put one button on the bottom right. You press that button, the plus icon, and you have 4 options. The top option is to identify non-physically present clients, clients that are not in the city, not in the province, maybe out of the country, or if you forgot to ID your client, which happens all the time. If you forgot to ID your client when you were with them, please stop asking them to text you a copy of their ID. Stop asking them to email you a copy. It makes them feel very uncomfortable, number one. Number two, you don't want to keep true images on file. Even car dealerships are coming under fire now for photocopying and keeping copies of their IDs without written consent. This violates the Privacy Act. What this is here is a legal obligation for Fintrack, so you can extract the data, but you should not have this on your cell phone in a non-secure environment. So let's show you what we've done here. When the client's not physically present, use the remote ID. Enter the client's name. Let them know, Simon, I'm sending you a link to our app that we use to authenticate and verify client identity before we can proceed in the transaction. Of course, this is when you've never seen the card yourself. If you forgot to ID your client, the tool is handy as well. They'll receive a text message in English and French. They'll open it up and they'll read the terms. There's a link that takes them to the Fintrack website showing them why this is a legal requirement. And there's no way around it for us. So they'll continue and they'll enter their occupation. They'll enter their employer. Yes, we added these fields ourselves, industry as well, because we want you to use this as a know your client process. The next time you work with your client, you're going to be able to look in their file here and say, how's everything going at ABC Plumbing? Oh, I'm not there anymore, Simon. Okay, where are you at now? And then you can update their profile and reuse their file to submit for a new transaction property address. So once they've entered their occupation, again, this is your client receiving the link and going through this process. They'll review this video that just gives them some tips on what not to do to avoid any disruption to their process. I won't press play, but we'll continue. And then they'll get started. We've made this very user-friendly and intuitive, as you can see. We can do 178 countries globally with all documents issued by governments. And we are now going to verify this document, authenticate it, make sure it's not a picture of a document. Believe it or not, we've caught 3 folks in the past little while trying to use a photo of someone's ID and a photo of the individual to pass our process, and it's not going to work. This should deter fraudsters altogether, but you know, not all fraudsters are very smart. We're going to go to, I'm just going to move my glasses from the background here, and we're scanning the front and back. Yes. Now our software is authenticating the watermarks, barcodes, holograms, signature payload, all of that good stuff that the government puts in there. And of course, we make sure that it is a real document. We're actually taking multiple bursts of images to see if there's a background there. And then they can continue to their selfie so that we can match the selfie against the ID and make sure it's a live individual, not a photo. Okay. Wow, my camera needs cleaning, but that should work. All right. We're all done. Client has now completed the FinTrack form for you. You're going to receive a notification. You go to your app, refresh your browser by dragging down with your finger, or if you're signing in on your desktop, you can simply refresh your browser and it'll be there. You can access FinTracker on all devices. So it's a mobile app and a web app. Once you're in there, you'll see all the mandatory fields are highlighted for you. You can't make a mistake. This is foolproof. So for new agents, this is great because it walks them through all the steps. Because they scan a government issued ID, you don't need to create a credit file or a dual ID process method or any other method. Of course, if you select those methods, we will move the app to that dual ID method. But let's back up here. Government issued ID has been already scanned. All the info is there, no errors. All you have to do is answer the questions. Is there a third party? In this case, no. If it was yes, you saw, it opens up all the required questions for the third party. This is a Canadian citizen non-physically present. The reason we can't move that there is because automatically a lot of agents are using the remote ID for every transaction. We're not saying you should do that, but some companies have opted to do that for every transaction. And I'll show you why in the end. Residential property in this case, ask clients additional measures taken, often overlooked. We pre-populate these answers in this section because we ask the client to provide identification each time, or we make sure the information is correct and current by default using our technology. You can't use an expired document. It'll reject it. You can't use a fraudulent document or an incorrect document. It will reject it. So giving you confidence to move in this deal without having to be the police. You're just getting this information, answering the questions. If they're politically exposed, themselves or at arm's length or an intimate relationship spouse in a significant political role or higher, head of international organization, they should know this themselves if they are, and they will answer if you ask the question. If not, we will, through this process, scrub it against those lists. So I'll show you that in a second. Again, if you miss any fields, I want to back up here, and you try and submit it, the submit tab will be in red, and you just press submit. It'll take you to the missing field. You complete it. Your office is always getting a completed form. Now, this takes less than a minute if you're not doing a demo like I am now, and you can add another individual. I'm actually going to do that in real time now and show you how easy it is. So this is the in-person scanning now. My client is with me. I have their ID. I'm going to scan it. Enter the second client's info, ABC, ABC law, and it's the law sector. Okay, I have all the info. I can actually save this now if I don't want to complete this. Save it as incomplete, but what we want you to do is not save it to your pending folder. If the client's with you, just complete the rest of the info. You have both IDs here. You're going to go, no, this person is physically present, residential property. We ask the client to provide current document, ask the individual if they are politically exposed, save it. Now you've done two IDs, and maybe you want to add a corporate ID. Maybe they're acting on behalf of a corporation. On the corporate ID form, we pre-populate to the best of our ability. We are working on bringing in a corporate registry so you can search the company name and pull out the articles. We'll charge a fee for that, saving your client time. and your self-time. That's going to be optional. Beneficial ownership is a new section on the corporate ID. I might as well cover that. I don't think we've done that in a while. On the beneficial ownership section on the corporate ID, the best way to do this, if you're in commercial deals a lot, you want to make sure if it's a corporation, you ask them to provide you a shareholder agreement. If they don't want to provide that or don't have that readily available, you can ask them to send you an email with all the owners who own 25% or more of the corporation and their addresses, including civic address, okay? City, province, postal code. That's all you need. If you want to make an attempt to identify those beneficial owners, great. You can do that using the remote ID link. I'll leave that up to your office policy. I always say make an attempt. It doesn't hurt. Moving on, you would complete the rest of this by entering that information, and having them email you a list of beneficial owners will be a written attestation that you can print and put in your file as a supporting document. We are waiting for the Government of Canada and that registry. They impose this on us without a source or resource. And we are looking at one right now that is pretty good, but it still has gaps. So we'll move on from this. All right. So I've done my individual ID and my the two clients. I want to add a receipt of funds. I don't want to add a corporate ID. I've received a deposit as a selling agent. Maybe you're double ending the deal. So if you're double ending, you collect a deposit, you still have to do a receipt of funds. So you select the date. And this is what I was talking about earlier with those fines being issued. And of course, we've been warning about this for quite some time. When you select bank draft, if you're receiving bank drafts, you have to make an effort to get that Origins account information. Until the banks put the Origins account info on there, this is a loophole for third-party funding, and that third party could be a fraudster, could be a money launderer, who knows? Could be terrorist financing. And in one case out west, there was an investigation done on a group, and they followed the paper trail, they followed the money, and they found out that they were using a brokerage and providing funds with bank drafts to third-party individuals conducting the deal. And they saw that the agent was never asking for the Origins account and found them negligent, or complicit. And so fines were issued. All you have to do with Fintracker is listen to our prompts. Ask the client like this: are these funds coming from your account or are they coming from a third party? If the client says it's coming from my account, great. Do you mind providing me those details? I need to document all affected accounts. Otherwise, it's going to raise a red flag. If the client says, yes, you will document the Origins account and the bank draft account and the trust account it's going into. If the client says, no, I'm not giving you those details, insist one more time. I can't force you to give me this, but I'm telling you right now, if I don't get the Origins account, it may result in a suspicious transaction, and I want to avoid that. Okay, the client says, no, I'm not giving it to you due to privacy. Sorry. Account number one is the account receiving the funds. So whether it's a lawyer, a developer, builder, or just your brokerage, you will enter the trust account name, not the trust number. You don't need the account number for those offices. Account number two, when the client is not providing it, would be the account on the bank draft. You have to enter something. And that belongs to ABC Bank, not your client. So if you're filling out your client's name there, you're actually doing it incorrectly. And close that account number three because they're not giving you the Origins account. But maybe they said, it's coming from my account, but I'm not giving you my account number. You can enter here account number Origins and document when you asked. So you have a paper trail, why they didn't provide it, privacy. Do you suspect terrorist financing or money laundering? If the answer is yes, a suspicious transaction record is required on your office end, and you need to communicate that. If the answer is no, then you can move on, and at least you've documented it. But if you're doing this all the time, so if an auditor comes in now and says, show me all Simon Fiore's submissions for bank drafts, and then there's nothing but bank drafts, there's going to be a problem. Whether or not there's criminal activity taking place, you're not going and making that extra effort to collect the Origins account, and you're leaving your office exposed. So I've completed all those, and I want to submit this to my office. Of course, your office is set up, so it'll be here by default. You can press submit, and they'll receive it. For those of you who haven't seen Fintracker before, this is what it looks like on your office's end, the finished copy. And you can, of course, access these forms within the app. We'll recall the data using SSL encryption, completing these forms. And you can upload these forms to a document management system if that's what you're doing. I can't recall. Sorry, I should have asked at the beginning. And your forms are completed all the way to the politically exposed form. And if you use the remote ID, that is the non-physically present method, we provide you with this report that includes how we verify the identity using the IP address, the timestamp, who did the scanning, age estimation, date of birth. We check out the signature, the liveness, make sure it was a real person and a real document, AI face match, and a bunch of other fraudless checks that we do. You don't have to worry about that as realtors. Just know that if it makes it to your app, it's green lit and your office will receive that. On top of that, your remote identification process, when you use that and submit it to your office, we are now running it for all the sanction lists automatically. So there's a cost that comes to all of this for us, and we've had to start charging for it, of course. So the remote IDs requires tokens now. I can't recall what we're doing with your office, but if you're part of some of the boards that are offering tokens, remind me, Aaron, I should have done my homework before we started this morning. Which board are you guys under? Sorry, you're muted.
Toronto Real Estate.
Toronto Real Estate, thank God. You are being covered for 5 of these transactions a year. So try to minimize these to when your client's not physically present. If
Simon, just a quick question for those part of Kingston. Do you know what Kingston and I don't believe Kingston as well as our Hamilton Burlington board.
So there is talks of that amalgamation taking place.
Yeah.
And we're working on getting them some tokens as well once that takes place. I have sent an email looking to find out if Hamilton will be taking on the services with Mississauga, RAR, who is all part of already part of Fintracker. So it's just Hamilton, and then we'll look to be adding some tokens for everyone. But after that, regardless, if you have to pay for them and purchase tokens, we're charging you $2.99 per token. This is, if you hire a mandatory, if you call me as a realtor in Manitoba and say, Simon, I need you to go ID this guy for me. I need $50 gift card, or you have to send me a referral or something. You know, nobody works for free. Listen, save, and they're not going to be able to, the mandatory is not going to be able to do what we do. We're doing a full screening for you. AML, watch list, sanction list, terrorist list, fraud list, adverse media if it's involving all of the above. We don't, you know, and when it does match, it's not necessarily your client. We provide you the source and everything to your office. It's not for you to review. We don't want to alarm the agents. We just want to get the information to your office. Believe it or not, all offices are supposed to have a method to screen against lists. All we've done is automated it. And of course, for the convenience, we have a fee in there. So you'll receive 5 annually from Toronto Real Estate Board. We're going to be throwing a few up for RAR as well. So you should be covered. And all right. So that is completing the full process there. Whether I displayed the remote ID, non-physically present, I showed you how to ID your clients in person. I'm going to now show you a little shortcut. If your clients are with you, make a habit of just identifying them off the hop, even if you don't have a transaction yet or a transaction property address. What you want to do is grab their IDs and scan them. Scan that ID, enter their occupation. So what do? Oh, where are you working now? Okay, I'm a plumber, ABC Plum. Sorry, it's just what I use. And save it. You don't need a transaction property address. What you need is to collect this information up front. And it stores here for you in your pending folder. When you have an offer with an address, open it up and go ahead and complete it. Fill out the missing fields, submit it to your office. It's that simple. And if you're working with your client, again, I'm just going to delete these so you can do that when you're testing it with your ID. Now pay attention. This is the most important tool that I always have to respond to, or my team responds to emails saying, please watch the tutorial videos on the top right. We break down each feature for you, but here's a feature that not a lot of people know exists. When you're working with a client a second time, third time, fourth time, you've already ID'd them with Fintracker. Go into new individual ID. There's two search bars at the top. Search their name, recall the data, so you don't have to use a remote ID token every time. And find that client, and all their info comes on here. We have a little message that pops up at the bottom. Please make sure they're still working at the same place and that they're living at the same address, and ask the same questions. Are you acting on behalf of a third party on this transaction? So that's the critical information that needs to be updated. Other than that, if the ID is expired, it doesn't matter. You verified and vetted it with Fintracker the first time, you can reuse it. We have that in writing. So you're covered there. Search previous for reuse, most commonly used tool, but at the same time, it's, not a lot of people know about it. Most of us as agents, we list a home today. When we sell that property, we have to find our clients a new home or vice versa. So you're going to be identifying them numerous times for different transactions. Again, the tutorials are on the top right. You can contact our support in real time. I think anybody using the app here would like to testify how quickly we respond to support tickets. It's record timing. And that is all. When it comes to the F word, we have you covered. Let me know if you have any questions here.